This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. The 5-star martial emperor was also taken aback by his appearance. He quickly said, I was eaten by Li Yunxiao's summoned beast. What? Was it eaten by a summoned beast? Lu Jianba was stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed coldly and said angrily, "Do you think I'm an idiot?" Seeing this from a distance, Yunxiao cursed in his heart. He immediately transformed into a bolt of lightning and shot away. You want to escape? Lu Jianba immediately noticed Yunxiao's action, and his face darkened. He raised his hand and slapped the 5-star martial emperor with his palm. A strange talisman formed in front of his chest, catching the 5-star martial emperor off guard. He did not expect Yunxiao to suddenly attack, and all his meridians were sealed in an instant. What? You? The 5-star martial emperor was shocked. He was about to cry out in alarm when Lu Jianba grabbed him and threw him toward the Iron Tear's tentacle. Bang! As Iron Tear's tentacle stabbed down, the battle suit automatically manifested to protect the body. There was a burst of intense light, and the martial sovereign fell into the sea, his death unknown. Lu Jianba snorted coldly, then immediately turned into a beam of light and chased after Yunxiao. Although the tentacles were dense and powerful, they could not hurt him at all. Yunxiao's heart sank. Knowing that he was in trouble, he hurriedly activated the power of thunder and lightning to the maximum to escape. The sea beast, Iron Tear, seemed to have noticed something as well. It suddenly went crazy, and waves rose to the sky. The entire sea level rose abruptly, and the seawater rolled up to the sky. Half of the huge Iron Tear's body was hidden in the waves as it chased after Yunxiao and Lu Jianba at a high speed. Li Yunxiao, what are you running for? Stop it. At this moment, Lu Jianba was extremely vexed. It was all his fault for giving the other party the lightning technique. Now that he was flying faster than before, he couldn't even catch up to him. Yunxiao's chuckling came over as he said, "Mr. Lu, why are you chasing me? I'll stop after you. The monster is chasing me closely, how can I stop?" Lu Jianba said angrily. "Do you have little Iron Tear's corpse with you? Let's find a place to have a good talk. If you want to talk, do it now." Yunxiao shouted. "It's very exciting. It'll be no fun once you stop." Lu Jianba's face was ashen as he anxiously shouted, "I have great use for little Iron Tear's corpse. I hope young Master Yunxiao can give it to me. We can discuss the conditions." Just as Yunxiao was about to speak, the strange phenomenon in the sky suddenly became more intense. The waves almost broke the sky, and a dark aura spread out in an instant. All of a sudden, the entire sea area was shrouded in this gloom, and the dark atmosphere made people feel depressed. A strange phenomenon in the barrier, not good. This Iron Tear is starting to release a barrier. Lu Jianba's expression changed drastically. "Young Master Yunxiao," he said anxiously, "quickly give me Iron Tear's corpse. Didn't you take a fancy to a few of my treasures? I'll give it all to you, let's make the deal now." Yunxiao's heart jolted. The Iron Tear might be an important treasure, but at least it was useless to him now. However, the 3 treasures Lu Jianba had were extremely important and precious. If Yunxiao's heart was not strong enough, he would have agreed on the spot. But the more anxious Lu Jianba was about the deal, the more suspicious he became. Moreover, he was the one who had personally thrown the 5-star martial emperor to Iron Tears just now. Yunxiao had seen it clearly, and he knew that this man was by no means a good person. Lu Jianba seemed to have seen through his doubts and said anxiously, "This Iron Tear's wizardry barrier has a feeling of a world anomaly. It's very dangerous, and even I'm not sure if I can walk out of it. Let's complete the deal immediately, and then we'll leave our lives to our own abilities." So that was how it was. Yunxiao's face also showed a hint of solemnity. This strange phenomenon made him feel a little uneasy. "If I can't get out of here alive, what's the point of having your things? Let's wait until we're out of here, and if everyone is still alive, then we can trade." Yunxiao was not worried about Lu Jianba at all. Lu Jianba was an expert that even he could not see through, so he did not believe that he would die in this sea area. Instead, he was the one who had to worry about himself. Lu Jianba was furious. His face was even gloomier than the sky. He suddenly stopped chasing. He took out an item and threw it in the air. It kept spinning in front of him. It was just a rectangular horizontal bar, but it became bigger and bigger. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a door that was 2 meters tall. Green light flashed around it. He gently pointed with his finger and the door opened. It was a vast white inside. This door stood between the sea and the sky, emitting a faint light. It seemed to be swallowed up by the natural phenomenon at any time, appearing thin and isolated. Lu Jianba's expression gradually calmed down and he regained his previous calm. He lifted his feet and walked through the door. His figure immediately disappeared. Yunxiao, who had been paying attention to Lu Jianba's movements, was taken aback when he saw it. A space gate? Spatial mystic artifacts were the most precise and complicated part of alchemy. If it was just to open up a still space, such as a storage bag or a storage ring, it would be very simple. There was a set of fixed procedures, and only a third-tier alchemist could do it. But, it became more and more difficult to go further. Only the top 9th-tier great alchemists could successfully refine such a space gate. Even in Yunxiao's previous life, he had little chance of success. The reason why a transcendent grade profound level weapon was unparalleled was that the spatial refinement method within it was stuck, and it could not form its own world. Bang! The iron tear sea beast's tentacle caught up with the gate and smashed it into pieces, causing a burst of light to burst out. Yunxiao sighed in his heart. But, most of these space gates were one-time consumables. His expression turned a little serious as he thought for a moment and said, could it be that the strange phenomenon of the Iron Tear's barrier was so terrifying that even with Lu Jianba's strength, he had to open a space gate to escape? Just as he was feeling suspicious, a sense of impending death suddenly spread from the bottom of his heart. That terrifying and helpless feeling made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Transcendence golden body. Yunxiao did not know where the sense of danger came from, but he gave a loud cry and immediately manifested 3 heads and 6 arms, his body covered in golden light. After that, the devil sky silk broke out of his body and revealed the physical body of the battle armor in front of him. The Great Sorrow Sunset Cloud Mirror also enlarged at the same time and began to form the mirror formation. Bang! The Sunset Cloud Mirror's mirror formation had yet to be formed when it instantly shattered, and the entire mirror lost its light. The Devil Sky Silk was also hit by a huge force and was directly jolted back into its body. After that, a figure descended. His 5 fingers were as thin as firewood, and he grabbed at the Devil Sky Silk. Yunxiao was taken aback. A beam of saber light flew out in an instant, and the 1,000-year tyrannical saber turned into the corpse puppet's real body as it slashed across the sky. Bang! The big, skinny hand hit the zombie's head at an extremely fast speed, knocking it back into the shape of a blade and then continued to grab at Yunxiao. Only then did the face of the owner of the hand reveal itself. It was Lu Jianba, who had a calm and cold face. It turned out that he had not used the space gate to escape, but to capture Yunxiao. At this moment, light swirled around his other 4 arms as he cast spells one after another. Just as several treasures were restrained, the Thunder Hammer and the Dynasty Bell smashed down together. The 9 Northern Heaven Frigid Star Swords had also formed a sword formation, and a huge sword-shaped sword slashed down from the sky. You do have some magical powers. No wonder the Red Moon City Master thinks so highly of you. Lu Jianba's expression changed slightly, but he didn't panic at all. His 5 fingers pointed out repeatedly, and a ray of light shot directly onto the Thunder Hammer. The light of the thunder was instantly sealed and couldn't be released. After that, a finger radiance struck the Dynasty Bell. The trembling sound shook violently and swept out. It made Lu Jianba frown, but it was only for a moment. Then, he punched out and sent the Dynasty Bell flying. At this moment, a sword from the 9 heavens wrapped the moon and fell. The sword diagram trapped him inside. This sword formation has some skills. Unfortunately, it's too weak. Lu Jianba threw a punch in the air. That tyrannical and unparalleled giant sword shape twisted in the air and shattered with a bang. The 9 long swords instantly flew up and turned into a rain of swords, slashing down one after another. Yuan Shao also took the opportunity to catch his breath. While performing an incantation gesture to restrain his opponent, he retreated in the opposite direction toward the Iron Tear. He had to rely on the Iron Tear's strength to fight Lu Jianba. Don't make any unnecessary struggles. I just want to keep you alive, so I've been showing you mercy. Otherwise, how could you have taken one move from me, a peak 7 stars martial sovereign? Lu Jianba's expression was cold. The rain of swords that filled the sky was nothing. He directly stood with his hands behind his back and took a step forward. The entire space trembled. The rain of swords fell one after another, but they could not get close to him. Yuan Shao dodged several attacks from the Iron Tear's tentacles, then opened his 3 eyes at the same time, which turned into a blood-red color with different patterns. He began to perform a spiritual attack that rushed directly into the Iron Tear's mind. I can only try. If it doesn't work, I'll have to hide in the Divine Realm tablet. This Lu Jianba reported his strength. If he's a peak 7 star, we don't have to worry about him breaking the power of a realm. Generally, sea beasts with extraordinary strength would also have extremely high intelligence, but this Iron Tear seemed to have an extremely low intelligence. Such demonic beasts often did not have strong mental power and were easy to control, not to mention that he had an unusually powerful moon pupil. Iron Tear, who had never made a sound before, suddenly screamed towards the sky. Its voice was sad and desolate, and there was a trace of panic and fear in it. Its entire huge body trembled. Yuan Shao was suddenly overjoyed. His spiritual attack had only been hindered for a moment, but it broke through in an instant and directly invaded the other party's brain and soul. Iron Tear's manic mood seemed to have gradually calmed down, and all the tentacles in the sky stopped moving, only the countless large and small suction cups on them were still breathing. Yuan Shao was both overjoyed and surprised. After all, the sea beast was of a very high level. Even if its spiritual power was not strong, it should not be so easily controlled by him. When he used Moon Pupil, it seemed to have a great fear in its soul, which was why it had submitted to him. What's going on? Not far away, a question suddenly popped up in Lu Jianba's mind. Why did Iron Tears, who had been stirring up trouble, suddenly become so quiet, and Yuan Shao, who had his back to him, also stopped moving? The strange scene in front of him made Lu Jianba feel uneasy. He unconsciously raised his head and looked at the blood-red moon in the sky. It was like a huge pair of eyes staring at him coldly, and he couldn't help but tremble. Whoosh, whoosh. All the tentacles on Iron Tear's head suddenly sprang up and straightened in the air. They became straight and exuded a surging force, spreading out in the air in a semicircle. Lu Jianba's expression changed drastically. He suddenly stopped in his tracks. Although he didn't know what had happened, he knew that the sharp tips of the tentacles were pointing at where he was standing. Li Yuan Shao, what happened? Don't tell me that you're controlling Iron Tears? When he asked this question, Lu Jianba's heart was filled with a huge sense of uneasiness. Although it was hard to believe rationally, what he saw in front of him was very likely to be the truth. Whoosh. Yuan Shao's figure suddenly moved and teleported directly above Iron Tears. He slowly turned around, the pupils in his 3 eyes turning into strange shapes, and his left and right eyes were blood red. Eye technique? Those red eyes are a Kasaya. Lu Jianba's heart trembled. It was as if someone had hit his chest with a hammer. He stepped on the surface of the sea and retreated. Ta, ta, ta. A line of waves splashed up. At this moment, Yuan Shao's eyes were like the blood moon in the sky, extremely demonic, and the killing intent in them was strong. So far, those who have seen me, Moon Pupil, are either friends or dead. Beads of cold sweat rolled down Lu Jianba's forehead. After such a long time, he finally lost his composure. His calm and composed demeanor was swept away, and his body couldn't help but tremble from the excessive panic. Yuetong Xuanji is really Yuetong Xuanji. It's really Yuetong Xuanji. How is this possible? Gu Feiyang had already fallen, so how could the Moonites still exist in this world? No wonder this iron tear is under your control. Are you Li Yunxiao or Yu Tong now? You don't need to know all this, Yunxiao said coldly. It's been a long time since I fully exerted the power of the moon pupil. Lu Jianba, enjoy this. Yunxiao's pupils constricted, and different patterns appeared in all three of his eyes. Then, an extremely strong spiritual power surged out, and with Yunxiao as the center, the entire sky and sea began to change shape, turning into endless darkness. The darkness spread rapidly, and all the light in its path disappeared, leaving only his calm figure and Iron Tear's huge body. Change the heavens and earth, reverse time and space. Lu Jianba was so shocked that he could no longer remain calm. He stomped hard on the ground, and a splash of water burst out as he flew backward. But no matter how fast he was, he could not be faster than Yunxiao's ice sorcery. With a single thought, he could travel thousands of miles in an instant and 100 years in an instant. The entire sea and sky disappeared, turning into an endless dark space. Only Yunxiao, Iron Tears, and Lu Jianba were left. In the sky above the dark space, the blood moon was still hanging high, as if it contained endless cold light and ridicule, looking down on all the lowly lives on the earth. Lu Jianba's face was as ugly as it could get. His entire body was so twisted that it was almost out of shape. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are not Li Yunxiao. Who the hell are you?" At this moment, Yunxiao's appearance was also extremely terrifying. Blue veins were bulging around his pupils, spreading to less than half of his face. His hair was disheveled, fluttering behind him without any wind, and his face was expressionless. Lu Jianba looked at him and became more and more flustered. He hurriedly said, "I don't care who you are, you're almost under the Moon Eye's control. Hurry up and break free, or it'll be too late." Yunxiao raised his head slightly and glanced at Lu Jianba with his heart palpitating, hollow eyes. "Oh. It seems like you know quite a bit about the Moon Eye." Lu Jianba felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss when he was looked at by those demonic and empty eyes. He couldn't help but feel a huge sense of fear. As the fear spread, he suddenly realized that his body had started to fall. He had really fallen into a bottomless abyss and would never stop falling. Lu Jianba was shocked. He knew that he had fallen into an illusion. He suppressed the shock in his heart and circulated his essence force with all his might. He started to perform the concealment of spirit and qi to guard his spiritual altar. After a while, he finally broke free from the endless fall. However, he was already drenched in cold sweat. Yunxiao gave him a cold look and said slowly, "I thought I would need to borrow the power of Iron Tears to contend with you, but it seems very easy now. The power of my moon eyes can be more than 10 times stronger in this ancient place. Even if you're a peak 7 stars martial sovereign, you can't escape death." The iron tear suddenly moved, and all of its tentacles that were stretched out in the air fell down like thousands of arrows, covering the sky and the earth. Lu Jianba licked his dry lips. He knew that he was in great danger. This place was Yuetong's hometown. Here, Yuetong was the supreme existence. Everything had to submit to her. In that split second of distraction, Lu Jianba was about to dodge the countless tentacles that were attacking him. However, he suddenly realized that he couldn't move his body. When he took a closer look, he was immediately scared out of his wits. He didn't know when his body had actually become a target that was filled with concentric circles. When he raised his head again, the tentacles that filled the sky had all turned into arrows, densely covering the entire space. Immovable King Fist, Qi shock the 9 heavens. Lu Jianba roared. A ball of green energy suddenly burst out from the body of the target. It formed a strong wind that shook the surroundings and blocked the dense arrows. At the same time, he shouted, "Li Yunxiao, let's talk this out. Let's stop and talk slowly. I've been merciful to you since the beginning and taught you the lightning technique. There's no need to make it a life and death battle. I didn't want to kill you, but you know I have the moon pupil. I can't rest easy if you don't die. As Yunxiao's voice rang out, Iron Eye rushed up and raised his big pincers like scissors, trying to cut the target in half. A large amount of green gas suddenly spurted out from the target, as if it was resisting the power of the moon pupil. Lu Jianba's body also gradually transformed back. His face was as pale as a piece of paper. Suddenly, a blinding golden light appeared in his hand, as if it had opened up all the abnormalities. A golden long sword burst out of his body. A blazing sun appeared beside Lu Jianba as he slashed the sword in the air. Bang! When the golden sword and the iron tier's pincers collided, Lu Jianba was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Although there was a huge difference in strength, he didn't suffer any injuries. Yunxiao's expression turned serious. Although the power of his lunar pupil had been greatly derived and strengthened, his opponent was a peak 7 stars martial sovereign, after all, and the golden sword in his hand was by no means an ordinary object. It would be difficult to kill him in a short time, and it would most likely be a protracted battle. However, since his killing intent had risen, he had to kill the other party. Pupil technique Helios Luna. Yunxiao's expression was cold as he cried out solemnly. A ring of light as bright as the sun spread out from his eyes, and even the primordial heavenly eye could not withstand the power of the moon and closed instantly. At this moment, countless sun and moon-like shadows appeared around him. A golden light shone and a huge golden wheel rose from behind him. It was like the light of a god's wheel. There was actually a manifestation of the world in it. Lu Jianba was shocked and shouted in fear, "I technique, Helios Luna? Gu Feiyang's heaven-peaking pupil technique. Who the hell are you?" He was already restrained in this illusionary space. Now that Helios Luna appeared, he was even more shocked. Even his will to fight began to show signs of crumbling. What was even more terrible was that in the moment of his daze, he suddenly found himself turning into a toilet bowl and couldn't move. The round light from the round pupil rose up like the might of the heavenly Tao. It rolled over and wanted to crush everything. At this moment, Iron Tears was also summoned. He roared and raised 2 big iron pincers, flying across the sky and flushing them on the toilet. Lu Jianba's heart was filled with fear. He was on the line between life and death. The potential of his life was unleashed at this moment. The shadow of the golden sword suddenly appeared on the toilet bowl. 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 3, and in an instant, the entire sky was filled with sword shadows protecting his body, emitting an extremely violent power. Sword explosion. Lu Jianba's eyes were also red. His emotions were so fluctuating that the entire toilet bowl was shaking. At this moment, he took out his own life-bound profound weapon. Even if he didn't want his treasured sword, he wanted to cut out a chance of survival. Boom, boom, boom. Thousands of sword shadows stabbed out and exploded in the air. The dark illusory space began to crack one by one, revealing the sea and sky world outside. Under the self-explosion of the 10,000 swords, the iron tear changed from attack to defense. Sword shadows constantly bombarded his body and exploded, causing bang-bang sounds to ring out. He kept retreating. As for Yunxiao's round light of the moon and the sun, it stopped pressing forward under the explosion and impact of the sword qi, and was constantly being suppressed back. The illusionary space was broken and the toilet turned back into Lu Jianba. His face was extremely pale. He endured the backlash from the golden sword's self-destruction while his hands rapidly formed hand seals. As the afterimages of his hand seals appeared, a faint pink color began to appear around him. Like smoke or fog, it enveloped him. Boom, boom, boom. As the last of the sword qi exploded, Yunxiao also suffered a great impact. The moon and sun phenomenon disappeared in an instant, and one of his eyes was closed on the spot, greatly affected. The blood moon in the sky seemed to dim a little. Li Yunxiao, we'll meet again. I'll definitely investigate what happened today and pay you back 100 times in the future. Lu Jianba's voice rang out. The pink smoke around him grew more and more, and his figure gradually faded. Yunxiao was taken aback, and his face turned livid. He gritted his teeth and said, "Pink crystal dust." It was the pink crystal dust that could create space tunnels above the ocean and teleport in random directions.